Welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is an amazing way for you to eliminate the need for the 1031 exchange, do more deals, create and preserve more wealth, defer more tax. We're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets podcast as well, where we're trying to bring on some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and business minds in the world, where they share their secrets, deals, stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. He's out of the great state of Texas. He is focused on helping us today build more wealth in short-term rentals. He buys deals for cash, and he helps people manage short-term rentals and so much more. Please welcome to the show with me, Pedro Meneses. Pedro, how are you doing?
Brett, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be here. Hopefully we can bring some value to your audience as well, man, which is my main goal to be here today.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Absolutely, man. My wife and I, we've been in real estate for 4 to 5 years, I think. We live in Dallas, Texas. We operate mainly in the North Dallas area, which is a really, really fast-growing area here in Texas. And, I'm actually born and raised in Guatemala, moved to the States 10 years ago, pursuing entrepreneurship, pursuing some of my wildest dreams. And it's been a 10-year journey since I decided to pack all my stuff and leave everything behind and started this journey, what I call my journey of self-development and really changing my life and becoming an entrepreneur and independent and really pursuing excellence and what we call the most elite version of ourselves. So it's been such a great experience being in the States for the past 10 years, and being in real estate for the past 4 or 5 years has also been a great experience. When I started learning about real estate, I was actually doing lead generation and marketing, and I was helping my wife because she was the first one who got her license when we were living in Reno, Nevada, because she was born and raised there. Then later we moved to Texas, but I started getting involved with real estate through marketing, through lead generation, and I helped her generate her leads at the beginning. And then suddenly we were like, no, I think it's time for me to get in the same boat and let's start building this bad boy together. And moved to Texas, got my license here in Texas, and that's where everything started for us. Like everybody else, when you get a license, you start getting in real estate. We started focusing on helping buyers and sellers on the retail space. But last year, certain things in our life have aligned in the way that, it's been surprising for us. We've been aligned with a lot of people, very successful people in real estate. We're doing business with them now. So we started changing our focus on working more with investors and helping them plan how they can invest their capital into real estate and deploy that money, whether that's short-term rentals and long-term rentals, Airbnbs, all that kind of fun stuff. And that's how our second company that we started last year was born, the Airbnb management company that we have in Dallas. My partner, he managed properties in other states too, but our main focus right now is here in Texas, especially the DFW, because it's an area that is just growing extremely fast.
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
there's been a couple of news in the past few weeks that it's getting the real estate game even more spicy this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. This is amazing. What a background. What a story. Very cool. You're making it big here in the States. And, one of our offices is in Sacramento, Roseville, California, not too far from Reno. My brother lives in Reno, and that's exploding too with Tesla and all kinds of other stuff
Man.
happening over there. And so, but before we dive into building wealth in short-term rentals, Pedro, I want to take one other step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts can be given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So we should go back to your younger days, and I'm curious, what are the 1 or 2 strengths or gifts that you believe you were given, and how does that help how you help and bless people today?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I was mentioning, I was born and raised in Guatemala. Um, I grew up in a really good family. My dad, he built a successful company till this day. He still has his company. So they gave me everything I ever wanted in my life. So, at early age and even at the beginnings of my 20s, I was not really the guy that I am today, which is why it's one of the reasons why I left, because I was so spoiled, and when I grew up and became an adult, I thought the world owed me something, you know. So that's one of the things that motivated me to step away from everything that I knew at that point, and pursuing something else. And I think, man, that when you intentionally put yourself against the wall, that's one of the biggest lessons that I share with people when they ask me, is because I see a lot of people, especially in entrepreneurship, real estate. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. And most of the time, people do not develop past certain point because they're not willing to put themselves against the wall and remove all options available to them and just focusing on their plan B and the plan A. Sorry. So I think when I did that, I discovered that one of my abilities that I have and that I implement almost daily is my ability to pivot, and adapt very quickly to any changes. Because as soon as I move here, obviously you move into one culture to a different one. Even that I been here in the States for several times in the past for vacations and with family and all that stuff. It's a different game when you decide to move here. Now you are closer to the culture. You have to interact with different people. There's different ways to operate things and to do business. And even certain sales job that you can find in other countries, they still have different ways to operate. So one of my abilities, I believe, is that ability to adapt really fast. Because as soon as I landed here, man, I was working on a sales job. We were in retail, and in less than a month, learned the process. I started making good sales and started beating the people that were doing the same job for months. And because just my ability of just saying, okay, I'm not in the same place I was before. I'm in a new place now. I need to adapt, change, and overcome. So I think that's one of my greatest abilities. And the
Excellent.
other one is just, yeah.
No, like,
And
keep
the
going. What's the second
second
one?
one, man,
Mhm.
sorry, yeah. The second one I will say is my creative mind. I I come up with some ideas, man, that sometimes are a little bit um what is it called? Not many people see them as like normal. I give you an example, but it helps us. We do all the years that we've been in real estate. I never cold call anybody. I never knock on a door. I never had to worry about leads, because all the time we have inbound leads and people reaching out, hitting us in the DMs. It's like, hey, I saw your stuff. I need to buy a home and all that kind of stuff. But uh, one of the things that we did last year for our listing signs, um, we created our listing signs and we put this on top of it. It says, "This house is lit AF." And you have no idea how many people reach out to us with that freaking sign. And that's the kind of like creativity that I have. I like to think outside of the box. One of the things that I don't like about our industry in real estate is just like how everything is just so square, and like people are afraid to go beyond normal, and I don't have that mindset. For me, I think very creative. My mind is very creative, and I come out with some weird stuff sometimes, man,
Hey, I
but it
love it.
helps.
I love it.
Might be a little bit might be a little bit controversial, but
Yeah.
it's making us money.
That's great. That's great. Hey, I'm speaking with Pedro Meneses, and you can find him at pedromeneses.online, and that's PEDROMENESES.online. So, Pedro, let's dive right into the topic at hand with those two gifts in mind: creative mind and the ability to pivot and adapt to change. With this, what's the number one secret to building wealth in short term rentals?
Man, I would not call it a secret, but after having so many conversations with people trying to get into the short-term rental, or AKA Airbnb, right? The first thing that you have to do is to change your mindset, especially if you're getting into if you first if this is your first time investing in real estate, because I will say that 90% of the conversations I have with new investors, they still have this consumer mindset. They're thinking about like, oh, interest rates are too high, or the prices are going up, or they're not thinking in terms of like how you can leverage this asset, right? And I mean, you are an expert in taxes, so you know that there's so many ways that in real estate you can leverage that, right? um so I think the first thing that people needs to do is to get educated, especially in the short-term rental, because people also compare too much. Like, "Oh, so what's the difference between short-term and long-term, right? Like the difference in how much money you can generate as a short-term rental. Like, it's just it is ridiculously high compared to uh, long-term rental. Like some of our properties right now here in Dallas, in the Frisco area, which is one of the big, fastest growing cities in the nation, they're making anywhere between $7,000 to $10,000 a month. So when you said this to someone who is not in real estate yet, or someone who has been in real estate but have been doing just long-term rentals and things like that, there's like, no, that's impossible, man. Like how is that possible? But it's just a different game. Just because have some similarities between short and long, it doesn't mean that there's the same game. There's completely different monsters, and they operate a different way. So I think that's where everything starts, man.
Got
Just
it. So the
being
first one, make sure I got it.
open-minded.
Make sure I got it. First one is thank you. Number one secret is to change your mindset from a consumer mentality and maybe just the general knowledge of real estate and investments with long term to how do I leverage the asset to double, maybe triple the cash on cash return per month. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So let's move into the number two
You know,
number secret to building wealth with short term rentals. What is that?
I will say that get your docs in order. Um, a lot of people have no clue that they're sitting in a, some people have their equity and they don't realize that they have a really have that's their ticket to get into real estate, because most people is like, oh man, I don't have the money, right? I don't have the money to buy a property. I don't have this and I don't have that. And they think that they have to invest, or they have to buy the property cash, or they have to put like 20% down and things like that. Obviously, if you're going to use an investment loan, like a DSCR loan and things like that, obviously, and this is your first investment property, you're going to have to invest 25, 30% on your down payment. That's right. But sometimes when you don't have the capital for that, but you own a home, you have to start looking at where you can find this money. So I think a lot of people, they don't even understand their finances. They don't even understand that. It's funny because always hear people saying, oh man, I have all this equity in my home. Well, your equity doesn't mean anything unless you deploy that and put that money to work for you. And we have helped people that they're like, man, I've been trying to get in real estate, but I don't get the money. Well, do you own a property? Yes. How long you been owning your property? 5, 6 years. Have you checked how much equity do you have in that property? No. When then they go and check how much equity they have, that's like it blows their mind. He's like, man, I didn't realize that I could leverage this. Yeah, because you have to learn and educate yourself on how you can leverage your money. You know.
Excellent. So that's the number two secret. It sounds like is getting your docs in order, but really understanding your financial statement, understanding your home equity line of credit options, your refinance options, whatever that might
Yeah.
be. You don't have what's called maybe sleepy capital that's just kind of sitting on the sidelines and not working for you. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, in my experience, I have come across people, whether that's a regular consumer or even someone trying to invest in real estate, that there's different um, um, things that they have, like 401ks and things like that, that they don't even understand that they can roll money from one investment to another one and then not get penalized. And that's when the light bulb clicks, it's like, oh man, so I think that is important, man.
Excellent.
I think
Let's move
we
into number three
financial
now. I think that's great. Let's move into number three. So, what's the number three secret to making sure we're building wealth and short-term rentals? The first one was change the mindset. Number two was get your docs in order, make sure your financial statements, very clear, and you understand where your equity is at and ways to unlock it. What would you say the number three secret is?
Well, to give you the number three secret, man, let me take a step backwards, because when people are getting into real estate, this is the first thing I will tell them. You have to choose if you're going to be, first of all, a passive or an active investor, right? So let's say we already passed that phase. They decide to be like a passive investor. They want to buy short term rentals here in Dallas, for example. They want to leverage us to manage their Airbnb for them and all that stuff. Now, once you get clear on that, if that's what you want to look for in this case, we're talking about short term rentals. I will say that that next secret would be like stick to it until you build your portfolio, and then you can start, you have the experience in how this game works, because the problem is a lot of people try to get into the short term and long term and multifamily and buying this and buying that. You have to focus on one thing at a time. You build one thing at a time. Let's say you start with single families. Now that you got clear that you want to start with single families, you decide if you want to do the short term rentals, and then you focus on that until you build a certain amount of money that can help you. Yes, that can help you go to like, okay, maybe I can start investing in multifamilies now, right? Because this side of real estate is being taken care of already. Now I can branch out to another type of real estate investment, or maybe get into
How do
commercial
you
and
know
things like that.
what amount of money you're going to build? How do you know, like, what's a good, like, hey, 6 months, a year, 2 years, or X amount passive per month? How do you know that?
It depends. When it comes to our short-term rentals, we have a process. So every time an investor comes to us and they want to buy an Airbnb, um, we have to go and look for those properties, pretty much like select the properties, because we do have a calculator and we have a process where we pretty much run all the properties through it, and they have to meet certain criteria, not only through a software that we use. It's called AirDNA. That is pretty much like a bible for our short-term rentals, because it pulls data for all sources of short-term rentals. And then after you pass that first criteria, we run it through our calculator, which give us estimate of how much the property could make after all the expenses, property management as a short term and as a long term rental. And the reason why we do that is because the short term rental game right now is the Wild West, right? In many places, it's not really that regulated. So we have to have that backup plan in case the city where we find in this Airbnb 5 years down the road, they decide to change the rules, and then you cannot have an Airbnb anymore. So then you can turn it into a long-term rental and still have a property that is producing you income. And
Got
like
it.
to give you like I was mentioning, like on average, we're looking for properties that can produce at least $5,000 to $6,000 a month. You know, I will have to like share like a screen or something to show like give a little bit of a
Yep. No,
more
that's a good answer. I appreciate
in-depth
that, Pedro.
example, but pretty much
Those are
that's what
great.
we're looking at.
Yeah, those are great three secrets. And by the way, it's at pedromeneses.online. So
I can hear you.
PEDROMEN. Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Did I list you? I'm not sure if I lost you or you lost me.
I can hear
But
you.
give me a you can or cannot?
I lost you.
Oh, you can't hear me. I'm not sure because it shows that my volume is going up, so it's good. So Pedro might have some audio issues
Hello?
right now. He's trying to fix that. We can hear you, Pedro, but you can't hear us. So let me see here. So not sure what to go at this
I lost
point.
you. I
We've had
cannot
some.
hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Um, so at this point, we're probably gonna have to have Pedro back on the show because we're gonna be able to finish out the lightning round. Although we were pretty close to the end here. So if people want to learn more about Pedro, you can go to
I can hear you
pedromeneses.online.
now.
Okay, great. He's back. All right, you're back in business. Great.
Sorry about
So
that, man.
all good, all good. I was just kind of free flowing there for a second. So that being said, we are running out of time, Pedro. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Absolutely. Let's
All
roll.
right. All right. What's your number one book you've recommended the most in the past year?
In the past year, I will say good to great. Gene
Excellent.
Collins, I think it is. Yeah.
Yep. What's your number one biggest frustration when it comes to the 1031 exchange?
To the what?
With the 1031 exchange, what's your number one biggest frustration when it comes to the 1031 exchange for yourself or for your clients?
The timing they're giving you to complete it. I think they
Like the
should give you more
shotgun wedding,
time.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Man, I have several, but I would say that I mean, I think the number one for me would be like your level of thinking will determine your success, because everything starts in your mind, right? Like the way you see things in your mind is going to be the only way that you're going to be able to achieve that level of success.
Beautiful. Love that. What are you most curious about right now?
Um, you know, I don't want to get political, but I'm really curious about what's going to happen in the next few years, all the craziness going on.
Yeah, so are we. Last question. After all your success, helping all the people you've helped, doing all the deals you've done, what's the number one habit that you practice to stay centered in your values and stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
To give you that the best answer, I cannot just mention one habit. It is a daily routine that I practice. So as soon as I wake up, I pray. I give thanks to God for my life, and then I write 5 things I'm grateful for. Then I work out at least 5 times a week. I before I even touch my phone, like I don't start working until 9:30, because between 5 when I wake up to 9:30, I do my gratitude, I meditate, I go to the gym, I read my book, I do a devotional, and then I go to work. And then at the end of the day, I write down the wins for my day. So that's pretty much like what I've been doing for, oh man, I think almost 5 years consistently every single day.
Amazing. Pedro, this has been more than a pleasure to have you on the show. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts and talents you've been given, such as having a creative mind to be able to solve problems in a way and look at things in a way that are different. And also to be able to adapt and pivot and help people do the same with creating and preserving wealth when it comes to short-term rentals. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, easily just go to pedromeneses.online. You find all the links to my social media. I'm very active on social media. Like I mentioned before, all of our we generate our business through social media, 90% of our business. So you can find me there. If there's a link to my calendar there, if you want to get on a call, I see there's a comment here. I don't care where you are in the country. If you have any questions in regards to short-term rentals, Airbnbs, or anything real estate in general, real estate investment, hit me up. I'll be more than happy to help you answer some questions, provide you with some resources that can help you start in this game. And because the short-term rental game is the name of the game is hospitality, and I can give you some of the stuff that have made our short-term rentals really successful.
Amazing. Thanks, Pedro. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. Also stream on Expert CRE Secrets podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is an amazing way for you to defer capital gains taxes on short-term deals. We just did a deal actually south of Dallas for $29 million to help a seller who could not qualify for a 1031 exchange. Also works for cryptocurrency, for business sales. It works for primary home sales. So if you want to learn more about that, you go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. By the way, we're streaming on YouTube. So if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, check out our YouTube channel, subscribe. We have amazing content beyond just the podcast that we release on a daily basis. You can also, give us that 5-star review on any of the iTunes apps or Spotify apps that you're on. That helps us to continue to incentivize the algorithm to put our content at the top, in which we so appreciate that. If you're finding value, please do one of those things. So appreciate everyone out there. Please rate, review, subscribe, and we will talk to you again.